Coach TC Taylor, he spoke and he had a lot to say. It was awesome because you don't hear from him very much, which is strategic. That's his style. But we appreciate when we do hear from Coach TC Taylor. I'm break down some of the things that he said, some of the things that I thought were awesome after the bumper because he had a lot to say. Stay tuned. What is going on, everybody? What is going on, everybody? My name is JeffLightsyJr. This is the Victory Formation Sports Show right here on JeffLightsYjr. YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your content. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button, like, share, and subscribe. Make sure my phone ain't going off. And hit the notification bell if you enjoy this style of content. Now, Coach TC Taylor. I know folks be on me about all the other stuff I talk about, but I talk about Coach TC Taylor as well. Because Coach TC Taylor is a man that moves in silence. And I think I heard Miss No Gray, Miss Michelle says silence can't be misinterpreted. You can't mix and mingle and remix silence. You can't mix it, you can't remix silence. And sometimes silence is powerful. But when someone does talk, especially someone who doesn't talk very often, you are more keen to listen, more keen to tune in. And Coach TC Taylor recently was a part of a Spaces hosted by two wonderful people. One was Coach Fred, and it was a young lady. Let me not go ahead and mess up her name because I don't want to mess up her name, but they hosted a wonderful Spaces. Had Coach TC Taylor on there for about 45 minutes or so, maybe a little less than that, but it was awesome. He was on there answering questions. SWAC Buzz threw in a question. Shout out to Doc Holliday. He had a question. The Tiger 85 Tiger Show had a question. They're on here, all on here, and they be talking in the chat sometimes. And it was awesome. Jessamine, she's a grad student at Jackson State. She's from Texas. She lives in Atlanta, so she hosted the Spaces, and it was awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and show you the Spaces. That way, if you want to go check out what Coach TC Taylor had to say, it's right here on Twitter. This is shout out to Miss Tanya for tagging me, Jessamine, and over 1,000 people tuned into this Spaces. Over this Spaces didn't happen 2 weeks ago. This Spaces is roughly around, at the time of this, roughly around 24 hours ago. So that means over 1,000 people were very much curious to what Coach TC Taylor had to say, and he had a lot to say, and I took notes. I took notes because, you know what I'm saying, I love taking notes, and I'm reading my notes, so if you see me look over here, it's because I'm looking at my notes on my computer. One of the things he talked about his life a little bit. We kind of got to know TC Taylor a lot more, right? Talked about his transition from quarterback to wide receiver. Said Robert Kent, and I don't have to tell you guys, JSU fans and supporters, who Robert Kent was and how great he was and the school records that he set and broke and all that stuff. And so when Robert Kent came along, he converted from the quarterback, the starting quarterback, that is, to the number one wide receiver and set school records in yards and catches, of course. And then he talked about his time over in Europe, NFL Europe, got to see the world. Played and won a World Bowl, which was the thing. NFL Europe was like the NFL's developmental league during the spring. So now we have the USFL and the XFL and all that stuff. But at the time, they had the NFL Europe. Spoke about that. They asked him, spoke about getting the key to the city of Macomb. I thought that was awesome. I posted on my community tab the pictures of Coach TC Taylor getting that key to the city. That's awesome. I don't know which person it was that came up and said, the last great, it was another great JSU coach that came from where you're from. And it was W.C. Gordon. And I thought that was a pretty cool tidbit to kind of just throw that in there, give it a little razzle dazzle. I thought that was awesome. He went on, they asked him, Coach Fred asked him, said, hey man, like, how's it been getting to the job? When a lot of people, when they talk about getting their new job or getting their first job, they speak about, oh man, it's been fun. It's been hard work, but it's been a lot of fun. I'm getting to know. Man, Coach TC Taylor said straight up, dog, it's been work. He didn't mention nothing about no fun. He said it's been work. I had to work to get that coaching staff. I had to work to get those players. I had to work to keep a lot of players left. So I had to work to replace the guys that left. It was work. Now, he didn't go into that detail, but that's what I heard. Because that's a man who's been at work. That's a man that's building a program that he wants to be the very best in all of FCS. Not just the best in the SWAC, not just the best HBCU. He wants to build a national contending type of program. You can hear it in the man's voice. You can hear it the way he spoke. Mentioned nothing about Nothing about fun. Ain't nothing fun yet. Said it will be fun, and he's waiting to see the enjoyables when it's all said and done. But this is work. And I love it. That's what I like my football coaches to go to work. Ain't nothing wrong with having fun. Don't get me wrong. I like players to have fun. I like my coaches to have some fun. But I really do like my coaches to work too now. And that man been working. Another thing that I really, really enjoyed hearing is that someone asked him, like, do you out there? I think the young lady asked him, do you go out there and try to, orchestrate the drills? Like show them how to do the drills. Like, nah, man, I ain't doing all that. Yeah, and Coach Fred even said, man, my drills, I orchestrate things from 10 yards and less. That's about it. He said, but in that weight room, they know they can't mess with me. Coach TC said in the weight room, them young men. He said, I know my age, but them young men have a problem with me in that weight room. And I like to hear that because that lets me know he's getting after it. Coach staying in shape, you hear me? Coach staying in shape. The most interesting question that was asked to him that I thought he was bluntly honest. Now, this is what I like to do. These are the things that someone like me takes into account and tries to come back and report to you. And it's like, yo, did you peep it? Did you hear it? What do y'all think? Leave in the chat. Leave in the comments. What did y'all think the most interesting? If you tapped into the spaces held by Jessamine, I hope I'm saying her name right, Jessamine and Coach Fred, did you hear what was your most interesting thing Coach Taylor said? And I loved all the stuff I've said before, but this was the most intricate when it comes to the team because he, at the end of the day, he is the head football coach. Leave in the chat, leave in the comments. I'll tell you what mine was. Mine was when Doc Holliday, shout out to Doc Holliday. Doc asked him, Doc is on the scene, you hear me? Hey, shout out to HBCU Overdrive. Doc asked Coach, if you had to, essentially, I'm paraphrasing what Doc said, but if you had to pick a starter today, who would it be? And Coach Taylor answered. He didn't answer straight up and say who would win the job. He said, but right now, Jason Brown is the most seasoned. Those were the words he used. He said, that's not to say that Phillip Short can't gain ground, that Zion McDonald can't gain ground. He said, but Jason Brown, his experience in the SEC, his experience in the ACC, his age, Jason Brown's been in college for 6 years, his age, his experience as a starter at the FCS level, that has him ahead of the other guys as of now. Now, granted, remember, they actually haven't started spring practice yet. But he's just saying off the things that he's seeing, Jason Brown has led team, the players only practices or players only, whatever, Jason Brown has led those. Said that resonates with a coach, especially at the quarterback position. He said you can just tell the young man's more seasoned. And the other guys have 3 years of eligibility left. Whereas Jason understands this is one shot, one hit or quitter. This is it. This is it for him. This is year 6. Said now, during April, meaning during the spring, leading up to the spring game, April 15th, and this he was bluntly honest. And I'm loving this about Coach TC because he's honest. He said, after the spring game, we should know who the starter is for the fall. He said, I'm not going to need fall camp. I am going to be able to determine who my starter is for the fall by the end of the spring. Those were his words. And that was big because most coaches won't say something like that. A lot of coaches, heck, I asked, if y'all watched the interview that I had with Coach Connell Maynor. Coach Connell Maynor said, I'm not going to have a starter by the end of spring. I'm not going to have a starter until the end of fall because that's how most coaches operate. He said, if you have a Aqeel Glass, you name him by the end of spring. And maybe Coach TC feels like he's got his version of Aqeel Glass. But Coach Maynor was like, no, I'm not going to. Y'all can get to know the starter at the end of the fall. Coach TC, bluntly honest, said, y'all will know the starter of Jackson State, the starting quarterback, by the end of the spring. That's big. That's big. Yo, I really, really enjoyed this interview that Miss Jessamine and Coach Fred put on with Coach TC Taylor. I'm going to give you some more of my tidbits. And you can listen to him say the exact words. I advise you, take 40 minutes out of your day. The Spaces itself is about an hour long. Coach TC comes on about the 15-minute mark, and he rocks it out the rest of the way. So go. So let's say about 45 minutes. Go take a listen to that if you don't get another chance. Another thing that he said during these Spaces, He said he wants him and other coaches, a part of JSU's coaching staff, which I'd assume includes Coach Mo Williams and Coach Tamika Reed over the basketball side of things. They want to visit some of these JSU alumni bases. So Jackson State, because it is such a well-recognized, it has a major alumni bases in some of the biggest cities in the country, including Houston, Atlanta, Memphis. I want to say they have an alumni base down in some other parts of Alabama, but he specifically mentioned Houston and Atlanta. He said wherever. He said tell the alumni bases, if you have an alumni association in your city, reach out to Jackson State, because Coach TC Taylor is hitting a road this spring. He mentioned after spring football, that is, spring ball, he's hitting a road, not just for recruiting, but he's hitting a road. He wants to touch you. He wants to feel you, the fans. He wants to reconnect with the fans in Atlanta, the fans in Houston, the fans in Memphis, the fans in Birmingham or wherever. That is huge. That is huge. That's only going to bring a tight-knit group that's already tight even tighter. Shout out to Coach TC Taylor, man. Shout out to Coach TC Taylor. He talked about wanting to continue to recruit. Oh, this is another thing I found interesting. Talks about one of the people who sleeper athletes out of South Florida, shout out to sleeper athletes out of South Florida, asked Coach TC Taylor, like, hey, the previous staff had some guys that had great connections in the state of Florida. Do you have guys on your staff that, because my guys, because he's a recruiting guy down in South Florida, said my guys here in Florida still are interested, no matter what anybody says, are still interested in HBCUs. So is Jackson State going to still continue to come down here and recruit our guys here in South Florida? Hey, we want to rock with the HBCUs. Not just, obviously we're going to show love to fam. Obviously we're going to show love to Bethune, but we want to see what JSU talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got guys who want to see what JSU talking about. He said, no, most definitely. We definitely going to be recruiting the state of Florida. He said, we have Trevante Rucker. He's from the state of Florida. You know who also is from the state of Florida they didn't mention? Now, Ken kind of already told us, but, he kind of confirmed it. Malachi Wideman's from the state of Florida. He didn't mention Malachi Wideman. Now, Ken Clark, shout out to Ken, man, KC 1400 Media. When I was on there, he said, oh, the best receiver on our team is going to be Rico Powers. I said, you think he's going to be better than Malachi Wideman? He's the best receiver on our team is going to be Rico Powers. And I'm going to just leave it at that. Coach TC Taylor, we got Trevante Rucker from Florida. Now, I didn't want him to list off the whole entire roster from Florida, but Malachi Wideman's still on that roster. I think Coach TC Taylor would have mentioned Malachi Wideman. Man, oh, man. And the game that he's most looking forward to is the first game because of multiple things. He wants to show off his new players. He wants his coaching staff to be able to show off what they're about. He wants to show off himself because he is a new head football coach of the Jackson State Tigers, and he wants to show off and show out to the world that JSU hasn't gone anywhere. That was awesome. He also spoke about continuing to push the light of HBCU programs and HBCU brands. He said there's a lot of attention out there talking about HBCUs, but all of it isn't good. All of it ain't good. But I want to continue to push the greatness that's coming from these institutions. I want to continue to push the greatness that's coming from our program. I want to continue to push the greatness that's coming from not just our programs, but all the HBCUs across this country, even though there's some that are pushing negative connotations, negative stereotypes, negative rhetoric. These are, he didn't say all of these words, but I'm paraphrasing. These is coming from TC Taylor. And we all know what he means when he says that. It was an awesome interview. I just gave you the cliff notes if you don't want to listen to it. But I advise you, there's over 1,000 people who have already seen it. And I advise you go listen to what Coach TC had to say for himself. Don't just listen to me paraphrase it. I just loved every bit of it. And I wanted to bring to you guys that Coach TC sounds like a man that's on a mission. He don't speak very often, but people that don't speak often, we tend to listen to a lot more. And he doesn't speak very often, but he was very candid and very honest about all the questions that were asked to him. Hell, he was so honest. I wish I just wasn't on there because I had other stuff to do. I would have got up there and asked him some more questions because he was so honest. Doc came out the gate. HBCU Overdrive came out the gate, was like, yo, who's lighting it up in practice? They ain't practiced yet, but who's going to be the starter? He's like, hey, I can't name a starter right now. We ain't in practice yet. But if I had to pick a leader, on the board is Jason Brown. Well, that's candid. That's candid. That's honesty. Yeah, but that's not to say Zai or Phillip Short can't. When we actually put the pads on, we actually get to, running plays. That don't mean they can't leap them. But if I'm just choosing a guy right now, it's him. And that's real, coach. That's real. I loved it, man. I loved it. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Coach TC Taylor in the spaces with Coach Fred and Jessamine. They did on Twitter. Go check it out. And once again, it's on them. They posted that. You can go to the video earlier. Thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, my name is Jeff Lightsy Jr. This is the Victor Formation Sports Show right here on Jeff Lightsy Jr. YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your content. Be sure, before you get out of here, hit that thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. We passed 10,000 subscribers, by the way. Shout out to you guys. We are up over 10,000. What don't break you will make you. We're here and we're going. Next stop, 15. Next stop, 20. Next stop, 50. All of that. So thank you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out. And I'll see you next time. Peace.